This essay is about Jack's 6th birthday. He turned 6 on July 7th. And I've gotten into a habit of giving him gifts. Also, his brother Owen, who's 2 years younger, um, giving him gifts and then a accompanying letter from the person who is responsible for that gift. One time they got folders for Lincoln pennies, and the folder had a picture of a Lincoln penny on a large picture on the front of the folder. Instead of giving him that folder the way it looked very nice, but I thought I'd like to personalize the folder. So what I did was to take pictures of each of the children, Jack and Owen, and on Jack's folder, I would have a picture of Jack, and then I would glue it onto the cover of the folder, and did the same thing for his brother. On his birthday this year, I did exactly the same thing for both Jack and for Owen. I took a picture I just took recently of Jack, printed it, made a circle, glued it onto it, and it fascinates both Jack and Owen to see their image on a penny or a nickel, along with a roll of quarters or nickels. They are fascinated by finding the date and then putting him into the right place on the folder. And so it's a cute gift. But what's even more important, at least for me, is to give them a accompanying letter. And in this case, on his 6th birthday, the letter was from Thomas Jefferson, talking about wishing Jack a happy birthday and talking about what happened, Declaration of Independence, and when that was signed. And it was basically a history lesson, along with a wishing of Jack and also for his brother a happy birthday. Jack is into collecting fossils. One time, when it was probably been 2 years ago, he was up in Crown Point, and my home butts up against a man-made lake, and there's no real beach there. It's just railroad tie and ties all across the back of my property, and then there are kind of big rocks that go out for a yard or so, and then the lake. And so we were just sitting there on the railroad tie, throwing rocks and laughing and giggling, and we were doing that for a long period of time. And all of a sudden, Jack says, "What's this?" And I look at it, and it's big rock that has probably a dozen or more fossilized seashells in it. And I thought, when I was in college, in 4 years of college, 4 years of grad school, and 4 years of postgrad school, I never took a science class except for one, and that was geology when I was in college. And I told him about the geology professor that I had, who said that anybody that could find a trilobite on a dig that we went on would get an A automatically for the class. And they think it's funny because I couldn't find a trilobite. In their collection, they have a handful of trilobites. On Jack's birthday, he received 2 fossils along with some Indian arrowheads. But the fossils were an ammonite, which we call a chambered nautilus, and it was really an interesting ammonite because it was kind of black and gray and white, and when you look at it, it looks almost Art Deco, and it was a shiny ammonite, but it was black and gray and white, and just I don't know why I thought it was an interesting thing, and hope Jack likes it as much as I did. But what he was most interested in was a fossil from a part of what they call a cave bear. These bears lived in caves, and this one lived in a cave in Romania. And the cave bears never ate other animals. They always ate vegetation. And so they had very, very large molars. And what he received was probably a 2-inch high or long molar with the 3 roots that go into the jaw. And it was absolutely, I mean, it fascinated me, and I'm into fossils, so, if it fascinated him, it would fascinate anybody. But it is rather large. And along with the ammonite, there's a letter from Charles Darwin explaining the cave bear, explaining the ammonite, explaining where they came from, how long they've been around, and wishing Jack a happy birthday. It was 3 years ago. And I was down there watching the kids one day. And I was sitting in their dining room, and Jack and I was teaching an art history class, and I had a laptop, and I was talking to my students about what was happening and posting things. Jack wanders in, and he says, and he's 3 years old. "What's that, Papa?" Jack has a habit of, he doesn't understand. It's what's this, why, and unless you give him enough answers to satisfy him, he'll continue to press why. So, "What's that?" And I said, "That's a famous painting, Jack, and that's by so-and-so," and toddled off. 5 minutes later, he comes back and says, "What's this?" And I said, "That's another famous painting by so-and-so." And I said, "It's just like what you do. You draw. This person drew." And I thought to myself, Jack, if you want to learn art history, I took it in college. I taught as a student assistant while I was still in college. And in the last 2 decades, I've taught many classes to college students. But my favorite is art history. And if you want to learn art history, I will teach you. And I put together a loose leaf folder or binder with now hundreds of pictures of famous paintings, dinosaurs, space exploration, and it's become their Jack and Owen's textbook. The very first painting that he was really fascinated, became fixated upon, was Marc Chagall's Eye in the Village. And I'll tell you, most Americans don't even know who Marc Chagall is and have no idea what that painting is. But Marc Chagall is probably in the 20th century, early 20th century, certainly in Russia and in Western Europe, a significant painter. But Eye in the Village was one of my favorite paintings while I was in college. And the first time he saw it, he just gravitated to that one painting. And he kept on pointing, and I said, what's this? Or what's wrong? And he says, "He painted my house." And at that time, Jack lived in a house that looked kind of like the painting that Marc Chagall has at the top of Eye in the Village. And that Marc Chagall has fascinated Jack, particularly Eye in the Village, for a long time. In fact, he got a, can you believe this? He got a painting, Eye in the Village, with a letter from Marc Chagall that was signed. Happy birthday to him. That was a year or so ago. We were going over Impressionist painters, French Impressionism, and I had given him a new. Each week I come down and give him more pictures of famous paintings and add them to their textbook. And the first time he saw Claude Monet's terrace or garden at Saint-André, he looked at it and said, "Papa, that's your backyard," because of the lake in the backyard, and it looked kind of like that painting. What was interesting about it was that Monet was kind of the father of French Impressionism, and he came up with the term Impressionist or Impressionism. And the idea that Monet had was that he said, "I wish I were blind, sitting in front of an easel with my paint brushes and paints all ready, and then all of a sudden I get my eyesight and I see something, and I will paint my first impression." Hence, Impressionism. Jack's first impression of Monet's impressionistic painting was, it was Papa's backyard. Probably 2 or 3 months ago, I happened to bring in some more paintings, for prints of paintings for Jack and Owen, and put them in their textbook, and we were going through the paintings. And one of them that I brought in was El Greco's View of Toledo. Almost nobody in America knows that painting, although it was, in my opinion, the best painting that, in my opinion, it was the best painting that El Greco did. It's the one that I like the most. And it is his impression, or kind of Toledo, the city in the middle of Spain. And it's a walled, ancient walled city. And it has, and Jack knows about the cathedral. He knows about the castle there. He knows about why the wall was put up around the city to protect the people that live there. He knows more about that painting than almost everybody in the United States. And I know that he is simply fascinated by that painting. But the interesting thing is that, and I said it to him, I said, you know, you don't see it particularly in this painting itself, but El Greco, everything that El Greco paints of human beings looks like the body has been stretched out. They look taller and more kind of skinnier. They just kind of looks like the artist has pulled their bodies and stretched them. And they become what is called elongated. And I told Jack this, and I said, what's interesting to me is that you have some parallels in your paintings with Marc Chagall, but you also have parallels in your paintings with El Greco, because he will paint anything or draw anything that interests him. I mean, he's into Star Wars. He's into a lot of different characters, and all of them are very elongated. And I mentioned that to him. The other thing about El Greco is that he not only is elongated, and the colors are kind kind of more vivid. In many ways, there's a parallel between El Greco and Van Gogh in their use of colors. And Jack knows all about that. And so he got a letter from El Greco wishing him a happy birthday and explaining to him about the view of Toledo, and then mentions that Papa loves to use only felt tip pens, which is true. I have two colors of felt tip pens, a blue one and a black one. And I won't write anything unless I use a felt tip pen. Whenever I'm in Indy watching Jack and Owen, Jack will see my felt tip pen and want to use one of them. And he will go and start doing these elongated figures of stormtroopers, Darth Vader. Doesn't make any difference. And I thought, when he just loves to use those pens. In fact, I gave him one, just put it in a little folder that he had, and said, "You can have this, and it's no big deal." And then a couple of weeks later, I thought, what I ought to do is go to the store and get a collection of multicolored felt tip pens. Papermate makes a pack of a dozen felt tip pens of varying colors. Jack got, El Greco's view of Toledo. He got two fossils and an arrowhead, and he got Jefferson Folder and Jefferson Nichols. But we spent half the time on his birthday, when I was down there, drawing. He was fascinated by the use of all the different colored felt tip pens. Of all the gifts that he received, at least at that time, the felt tip pens were the most important. And El Greco mentions the fact that El Greco wished that he had felt tip pens when El Greco was as young as Jack. So this essay is about my attachment to Jack and also my attachment to Owen. I love those two young children. But so what? Most of you who are going to watch this video and read this article don't even know them. So in a way, I would like my celebrating Jack's birthday to be the backstory. You have your children or your grandchildren or kids in your neighborhood that want to learn, that want to know. And so if you take anything away from this video and this essay, is that you need to get engaged. Start being concerned about young children, especially toddlers from my experience with Jack and Owen really started just around the age of 3, because at that time they want to know a lot of things. And it just happened to walk in, he just happened to walk in when I was teaching an online class. And that went from, knowing something about one painter, like Marc Chagall's Zion's Village, to knowing dozens of others, plus dozens of fossils. He and Owen know the difference in the relationship between the Rosetta Stone and the Rosetta mission. And that was not something that I wanted. And I didn't go down there saying, I'm going to teach them about art and fossils and space exploration. They were the ones that wanted to know. So, okay, I'll say it. You owe it to children. You owe the responsibility to teach young children, especially young children. And I guarantee you they will benefit. But so will you. I'm telling you as honestly as I can. I don't care about the time. I don't care about the expense. I don't care about anything that I do for those two young kids. What I'm the one that benefits. And you can be in the same place also. So thank you for watching and listening to this long video and reading this essay. But it is a backstory for you. Go teach. Take care.